9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Do you have constitutional questions? Get constitutional answers. We'll be answering your constitutional questions live, so get ready to call in now. Are you a prosecutor, law enforcement officer, or local government employee? Want to make sure you are executing the laws in a constitutional manner? Are you a city council member, township board member, or state legislator? Want to ensure the laws you pass are constitutional? Perhaps you're a citizen who wants to know the proper limits on government and the protections for your God-given liberties. Regardless of your role, call me, Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, with your constitutional questions during our live call-in show now at the phone number listed on the screen. And remember, together we can restore freedom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, I don't know what's going on with technology today, but that was kind of interesting. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if you saw the video. I'm seeing it all. So, okay, so I just tried to play our normal intro video, and I don't know if you guys saw what I saw, but it literally paused and then would have a word and then paused and then had a word, and none of my buttons were working. So let's hope that that was just how the start of this goes, and that's not going to be indicative of how the rest of the show is going to happen. So anyway, okay, so I'm going to see if I remember how any of these buttons work. Let's see. All right. Yeah. So it is our twice monthly live call-in show. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry. I did have a troll recently comment. Wasn't quite sure this person was a troll initially with some of the comments they were making. But anyway, I was answering some of their comments on the YouTube posts in the YouTube community page that we have on YouTube. And anyway, so they were commenting different things back and forth, and I was answering their comments. And then at one point, they said something about, well, certainly you don't claim to be an actual attorney. And I was like, are you dumber than a box of rocks? Because yeah, you know, I'm licensed in a lot of jurisdictions, and I kind of laid it out. And then they said, well, if that's really true, then, you know, when did you become licensed and whatever? Like, they had all these stupid questions, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do your homework for you. If you want to go to my website, restorefreedomkh.com, you'll be able to find the answers to all of those questions, or you could check any of the jurisdictions that I just told you I'm licensed to practice in. They'll be able to verify. But anyway, it's so special when you have trolls on the internet who have nothing better to do with their time. I haven't heard back from that troll, though, so I'm guessing that they looked me up and figured out, oh, shucks, she's actually an attorney. So anyway, welcome to those of you who are here to perhaps actually discuss the Constitution or learn something about the law or how government's supposed to work. And to all you haters and trolls out there, I don't have the time or patience to deal with you, so you can leave. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and check the chat here. First of all, I noticed before we got started, Big Bad John's comment, interesting facial expression from Catherine. I happened to catch that from one of the videos that I recently did. I'm looking for different videos to try to do the new thumbnails. You know, I'm not good at this, but Direct D kind of gave me some pointers, and I hope I'm making them proud on as far as how to successfully do these new thumbnails. Anyway, you guys will have to tell me if you like the new thumbnails. But so I grabbed that one because I thought, you know, I was trying to get a picture where I look intelligent or that I'm, you know, welcoming or approachable or, you know, professional or kind. You know, I have a smile on my face. And I couldn't get any of it. Every time I'm like, do I really not look at the camera that much? Because I thought I did. But anyway, I was going through trying to find one, and all of a sudden I landed on this one where I'm like, and I thought, well, yeah, seeing how the question is that even legal? Is that really legal? Perhaps that is a fitting expression. So anyway, I laughed to myself repeatedly. I'm like, am I really going to use this as a thumbnail? No, I'm not going to. And then I laughed, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I almost sent it to Mike, and I almost sent it to Lori and said, hey, you know, what do you think? But neither one of them really answered me on a regular basis. So I was like, you know what? F you. I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. So at least somebody found it amusing. All right. Let's see. My neighbor's yellow dog is voting for Trump. I'm not sure what that. Okay. Yeah, and you know, Big Bad John later commented that I looked rather nauseated in the shot. You know what? I am nauseated. I'm sick. I'm sick and tired of all the government idiots out there, of all the tyrants, of all the people that think that their title working for the city or the county or the state or the federal government, or whether they're a police officer or an FBI agent or a judge or a clerk or whatever they are, they're a code inspector, whoever you think you are, just because you work for the government, that somehow you don't actually have to know what the laws say, that you don't actually have to know if you're in the court system, you don't actually have to follow the court rules, that it's just for us peons, us mere mortals that have to follow those rules. I mean, how disgusting. First of all, if you work anywhere near anything that's considered a government entity, you better damn well know the Constitution. You better know the U.S. Constitution front and back. And you better know the state constitution that you're in for the state that you're in. If you don't know those two things, get the hell out of government. Quit your job. Don't try to get a pension. Don't try to get any kind of life insurance or health insurance or any kind of government benefits. If you don't know the Constitution, I don't care if you're the janitor or if you're a judge or if you're the president or you're a governor or a state rep or a city council member. I don't care if you're anywhere near government, high or low, no matter what the branch of government is. If you don't know the Constitution, leave your job, because that is your number one job, is to follow the Constitution. So yeah, you're right. I'm nauseated. I am nauseated at the way that our government officials think that this country is supposed to be run, that these municipalities are supposed to be run, that our states are supposed to be run. Do your damn job and learn the Constitution first and foremost. And then you better learn all constitutionally enacted laws. Not all laws, because there's a lot of laws on the books that are unconstitutional. You need to figure out which ones those are so that you don't follow those and therefore violate the Constitution, but all the constitutionally enacted laws, primarily the ones that serve to further protect our liberties, you better know those. If you don't know those, that's not an excuse to say you're not an attorney, because guess what? The rest of us people, whether we're attorneys or not, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? We could be charged with crimes not knowing something is a crime, right? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You've heard that many times. So why does that not work or apply for government officials? It damn well better. because you're not in some separate, distinct class of citizenry. No, you are a citizen just like the rest of us, right? And if you're not a citizen, you shouldn't work for the government. Anyway, okay. Yes, that was my nausea that I was explaining. Okay, Liberty Warrior says the video is lagging really badly. That's what I was wondering about. But Liberty Warrior, there's also that private chat that we have, the four of us have, where you're supposed to tell me wrong because I won't necessarily see it in these comments. Speaking of the private chat, ooh, good question. Lori's going to remind me of a question in just a moment, but I wanted to look really quickly here. Okay. Golden Labs can't vote. You know what? The two best dogs out there are Yellow Labs and Golden Retrievers. And if anybody says otherwise, we can't be friends. And if you're telling me that dogs can't vote, well, you know what? Dead people vote in Chicago and Detroit. So, yeah, if my dog were still around, he would vote. In fact, he's a dead dog, and I'm still going to let him vote. He would if he was a Democrat. Okay. Okay, so John Single asks on YouTube. Oh, you know what? I should go to the chat in here just to make sure. Let me go actually change the wording first. Okay, it is a live call-in show. I didn't quite do all the normal niceties that I'm supposed to do. I just kind of went into things. So starting my afternoon tirade on government, well, it's government tyranny, so how fitting. Anyway, chat though, I should check the chat to see if we have anybody commenting not from YouTube and one of the other channels, because if so, I'm not going to see it in the YouTube pop-out chat I have open here. Okay, so it looks like all electronics cannot handle her beauty. All, I'm hoping that's in all sincerity and not sarcasm. So thank you. I'm going to take it as sincerity. In fact, I just saw a neighbor of mine. Well, he's the homeowner. There's renters next door, but he owns the home. And anyway, he was interested in signing a petition that I have relating to an upcoming hearing that I have on Monday. If anybody is in the Volusia County area and would like to come and show support for me and justice and the rule of law, then please do so. I'll have a post with the specifics about it tomorrow, actually, as the Wednesday Way to Get Involved challenge. But anyway, so my neighbor was going to sign my petition, and we were done talking about it. And he said, and by the way, you look like you've lost a lot of weight. And I was like, oh, thank you, I have. And he said, you look amazing. So for those of you who have only seen my headshot for the last, couple years, especially those of you who I used to see in Michigan all the time and now I don't see in person, I have lost 51 pounds since August. So not sure if my eyebrows and my collarbone have shown that, but when you see the rest of me, maybe it'll happen. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to latch on to some of the positive comments, whether they might be tiny and not really the main point of what somebody's trying to say. I'm going to latch onto those because I've had so much negative and so much bullshit recently. I need the positive. I'll take the positive any way I can get it. So anyway, I'm not trying to skip comments. I think I'm not skipping any, but shoot. And I just got to, where was the question? Oh, shoot. John Single, window tint. Let me see if I can get that on here. Of course. Yeah, okay. Thank you, A Pig's Daughter. I appreciate that. Had to think about what loss I was just talking about. I also lost my aunt to cancer this weekend and loved her dearly. Anyway, so even despite what I was saying out loud, that's the loss I'm kind of thinking about right now. And I'm like, why did somebody congratulate me on that? And so I had to think, oh, because that's not what I was just talking about. Way too much on the brain. We got a trial coming up this week for a freedom fighter. Please be praying for that. We will be there in Orlando Thursday and Friday, and then I have the hearing I was talking to you about here in Ormond Beach on Monday in front of a magistrate. And all the while, I've been also working on my 5th District Court of Appeal. The city's got motions in. I've got motions in. I filed responses to their motions. They don't ever file responses to my motions. And so there's just been a lot. I just filed my reply brief. I think it was yesterday. I don't even know what day of the week it is. And today and tomorrow, I have to finish up my response to the city for the upcoming hearing, plus put together the rest of the petition signatures. Anyway, somebody asked overall, I'm trying to get back to the question from, was it John? So I could put it on the screen. But in the meantime, while I'm scrolling backwards, I'm seeing this one here. Overall, how to look legally for Trump. So I'm just going to throw that on while I try to find that comment about the question about the window tint. But anyway, overall, how does it look for President Trump? Quite honestly, even I can't keep track of how many cases are against him right now. You have civil cases that are being brought by prosecutors. You have criminal cases. You have misdemeanors. You have felonies. There's federal statutes involved. There's state statutes involved. And I haven't seen the pleadings for every single case because I don't even know what all the cases are. But of the ones that I know about and of the ones that I've been able to actually see the complaints myself, some of you if you've been around my channel long enough, you've known that I had some videos that I put out initially about mostly about the Georgia election interference case. And so I did some short videos on that. Check those out because I go through what the charges are. I go through about the plea deals that were taken by the 4 individuals that took plea deals. I go through what the implications were for all that. But anyway, I talk about some of those charges. And in the end, and I definitely talk about insurrection, which is where quite a few of these criminal charges are all stemming from. Legally, I think it's a load of garbage that they've brought any of these. Now, regardless, Republican, Democrat, let's pretend we live in a world where the prosecutors are not fueled by personal or political animus. Let's just pretend for a minute. The charges are garbage. They shouldn't be brought against anybody. So, for example, in the trial where he was supposedly defrauding creditors, where the banks themselves said they would continue to do business with him, that, there was no harm caused to anyone, no harm. And let's assume for a second that he actually did lie, or that his organizations did lie about their financial status. Let's assume. That's a big assumption. Keep in mind, that is a huge assumption. But even if that's true, if no one was harmed, fraud really takes there being some sort of harm. I can't go and sue somebody. And get this, guys. I literally can't walk into a courthouse in any state, in any jurisdiction, as a person and go sue someone for defrauding me unless there's some sort of harm that I can get something back out of it. I can get my property back. I can get my money back. Like there was something that happened. In these situations, they weren't alleging that he harmed anyone in any way or that creditors were defrauded out of money. No, they got their money and their interest and whatever. Like, on what planet does that make sense to say, well, he lied on his financial statements, his properties aren't worth that much money, so we're going to go after him? Oh, so you're going to make sure that, anybody that was harmed gets their money back? Oh, well, no one was harmed. Nobody needs their money back. They all have their money. All the creditors have been paid. What? That makes no sense. There's a lot of fraudsters out there that are actually causing harm, stealing money from little old ladies, pretending they're Social Security Administration or the IRS trying to collect government debt or whatever, pretending they're collection companies. My husband keeps getting letters, every 6 months or so from, I want to say it's like a Pennsylvania, supposedly a Pennsylvania toll. He's never been there. Wherever it was, he's never been there. And it was during a time that we definitely know we weren't there. I believe we were in Michigan, maybe we were on vacation in Florida. At any rate, it was years ago, and it was supposedly like a $2 toll that they then added, and this collection company is from this state, and the attorney's office that's supposedly involved is from another state. And I'm like, no, you guys are fraudsters. This is a problem. So anyway, why aren't they going after people like that? Anyway, so that's that thing. And then you have the hush money payments. Everything that I've seen so far, granted, we can't personally be in the courtroom, but everything I've seen from, and I will read not just the good news, like the Epoch Times, that's truthful and straight forward about things. I'll even read what the other news outlets, the bad ones, that are skewed, what they'll have to say. And I'm not seeing anything that's showing that President Trump did anything wrong or that he did anything that they're alleging he did. So all of this is just to keep, and the classified documents, when you're the president and you declassify documents and then you have them in your possession, and then a new president takes office and then they reclassify them, but you've had them in your possession, that's not legit. That's not a legit basis for criminal charges. All of these charges are BS, legally speaking, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. If it were Trump doing this to Obama or whatever the situation is, I'd be like, no, this is wrong. But it's whatever. They want to make a martyr out of him. That's exactly what they're doing. I don't know if they thought it would slow him down, but people have had enough. So, okay, let's see. John, let me get back to your question. You probably gave up because I went on a tangent trying to answer and address these other things. So window tint. Does a cop need a warrant to use his tint meter on your window? Depends on the state. So I would say if you have, and it totally depends on the facts and the laws involved. So here's some different examples. And I just noticed it doesn't have the call-in number anymore. Why did that not show up? Apparently, when I have these comments, it takes it off. So anyway, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so to answer this comment, when you have, gosh, what is a good example? And it depends on what the purpose is, right? But if you have a law that says that it's, you have to be able, what is too dark, right? That's really, how do they define too dark? Are they defining it by some sort of mathematical measurement, a metric? Or are they defining it by, you have to be able to visibly see how many occupants are in the vehicle, or, you have to be able to see what the driver is doing, or, how are they defining that in the law? And what is the purpose of the law? Because quite frankly, I didn't see this question coming. So I can't off the top of my head think of all the purposes. It's possible that there is a constitutionally permissive purpose for addressing window tint. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I need you to realize just because you can't think of one off the top of your head does not mean that they don't exist. Okay, so what I can tell you is that around here in Florida, we have window tint laws, and I don't know what they all are. I just know that they're window tint laws, and my cars don't come anywhere close to violating that. They don't have enough tint. But anyway, so I know that you have window tint laws, and I know that if there is a purpose of window tint, if anything, it would be so that you could see the driver. And I could tell you that we've had cop cars in our neighborhood and in the city in general, where you look at the vehicle and you can't even tell if there's a human inside of it, because the window tint on the cop cars, the front windows of the cop cars, is so dark you can't even see if there's a person inside. That's legit then. Either the law shouldn't be in place because it's not being equally applied, or the cop car is not legally tinted and it needs to be fixed, because you can't have a totally different set of laws. What is the purpose of a window tint law? If it's for some sort of safety purposes, then that applies to all vehicles on the road. You can't cherry pick. Anyway, so as far as needing a warrant, it depends, because if you have something where it says, the law says something about you have to be able to see the driver or something like that, then they don't need a warrant, because they should be able to see. And if they're just using the window tint measurement as, you know, some sort of objective standard so it's not just a cop's word, you know, oh yeah, their window tint is too dark, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, then, you know, do they need a warrant? Well, if the law is worded so that it's more about their visual, you know, can they see the driver? If they determine they can't see the driver, and the window tint measurement is just kind of a backup objective measurement, then I wouldn't think they would need a warrant. If the law has nothing to do with being able to see the driver, and it's just all about, you know, a scientific measurement of the window tint, then yeah, where's the probable cause? You know, your plain eyeball, your eyeball has nothing to do with the measurement, you know. So I don't know. It depends. There's too many ifs that are going on there. I hope that answers your question. Probably doesn't, but it's one of those complicated areas, which tells me, in general, if you have such a complication that it's so hard to figure out how you would enforce it, the general rule of thumb is, don't make that law. That's a bad law. It's a bad set of laws. The whole series of the laws on that regard should just be stricken from the books, because if it's this complex to figure out what is legal, what's not, how do you enforce it, how do you enforce it constitutionally, it's probably not constitutional in general. And thank you, Nick, for your comment. I saw your second comment later. Yes. Let's see. Oh, trying to see if I missed any other comments. Is this the city or county? I'm going to put a question on the screen here from Diesel. I don't understand the wording of the question. If you can rephrase this, I have a feeling it is a question for me and not just amongst the chat. And if it's a question for me, if you could rephrase this, I'd love to answer it. I can't get it in my mind enough around what it is being asked to be able to even start to answer. In the meantime, I'm looking to see here. Oh. And I'm not on Facebook. Seriously? Lori, can you confirm that we actually are not on Facebook? Oh, no, somebody is watching us. Marilyn Kelly, thank you for all you are doing. Thank you for your support and your acknowledgement, Marilyn, because honestly, sometimes I feel like all my efforts are in vain. And especially since I don't get paid a dime for this, and it's costing us thousands of dollars out of our own pockets, it doesn't feel like it's worth it sometimes. Let's see, so Lori has her own question she wanted me to ask. Should the county prosecutor or district attorney or whatever they're called, should the prosecutor in your area be holding the city accountable for their abuse? Oh, I don't know if you're asking that specifically in my case, Lori, or just in any situation, but if you have a city, you know, municipal, a city, a township, whatever, prosecutor who is violating the law, who is prosecuting cases where no jurisdiction, who's, you know, whatever, they're violating the procedures, they're doing all kinds of things to trample people's rights. In my opinion, that is the job of all the other law enforcement officials and agencies that have jurisdiction in the area. So in this case, yes, a county level prosecutor or district attorney or whatever, they should be stepping in. There shouldn't be any kind of immunity. They should be coming after them, because this isn't necessarily a situation of you didn't know the right facts and the case developed and then you realized you had the wrong person. Oh, we got our first caller. Hello, this is Catherine Henry. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, awesome.
So this is Diesel, and on the mark on the screen,
yes,
my phone has a tendency to change the whole different writing before it's sent off or as it's sent off.
Okay.
But what my asking is when you're in court, I know about rebuttals, and when you do a rebuttal to them, but they never rebut to you, is that inside the acquiescence and testing agreeing to your paperwork?
Oh, are you commenting like when I said they don't file responses to my motions?
Yes.
It depends, because there are some court rules. For example, if this was a case just not an appeal, but just a normal civil case, then the Florida civil rules of procedure would apply. And in the Florida rules of civil procedure, there are specific things that say, when you have a response that is required and the other side in that response either doesn't file a response or in that response does not deny the allegation that you make in your pleading, then they are deemed admitted. And so depending on the way that the court rules are written, sometimes there's literally a rule that says, yes, they are deemed to have admitted everything. And at this point, procedurally speaking, there are so many things, like the equal protection violations, for example. The city never objected or, filed any kind of filed any objection or, tried to introduce their own evidence that contradicted the equal protection violations, showing that they're there. And then in all my documents, the different levels of appeals and the petitions, the briefs, they've never said, well, these other areas, these other facts, these other violations don't exist. So that is deemed, it's undisputed. You know what I mean? So then it's my job to really hammer on the fact this is an undisputed fact. When I use those facts then in my latest brief, then I say, so I just filed my reply brief in the 5th District Court of Appeals. And so I said, this is undisputed. This is undisputed. This is undisputed. In fact, of all the legal issues I raised in my petition, which is like essentially my initial brief, they only ever addressed one issue. One, that's it. So I said, they didn't address this. They didn't address this. They didn't address this. They didn't address this, because they have nothing to say, because the law is on my side. So anyway, it just depends.
Which puts in solid acquiescence.
It depends on the scenario. So if a pleading is required, then yes. Now, some of the motions that I have, it's not that it's required, but logistically, how does that work? Like, for example, I won part of my motion, part of my initial appeal, where the circuit court judge in that appeal said the city is not allowed to come on our property and rip up our fence, our pavers, etc. Right? And so because I won at least one of the big issues on our appeal, I am entitled to have my appellate costs, not attorney's fees, but appellate costs paid back to me, right? I'm allowed to have the magistrate order that I have those costs reimbursed to me by the city. And the city, I filed that April 17th. The city had, according to court rules, had 15 days to file a response. We are way past that 15 days. They never filed a response. So the magistrate better darn well be signing an order when we go in on Monday to give me the costs, the thousands of dollars of transcript fees and court filing fees that I had in that appeal, because I'm legally required to it. But even more so, I'm going to argue they didn't even file an objection. So anyway, yeah, it just depends on the scenario. Silence isn't, it's not always agreement, but you can argue that the other side is essentially sitting on their rights if they don't, fight against something. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Well, it does. And of course, they have to have some type of procedure to kind of dilute everything.
Yes. Yeah.
All righty. Since I get on the phone, could I make one suggestion for you in the future?
Okay.
If you actually look up the 1871, the Second Congress Act of Civil Rights, in there, it says that we have a right to sue everybody, and they don't get qualified immunity. But when they transfer that into the statutes of the, USC, there are 16 key words that was missing out of that, which is where qualified immunity entered. And then on the 1983 of the suit, 1996, I believe, under Clinton, gave immunity for only judges. But the court itself is still going back to the USC statutes, but they're not going back to the in-law, in writing of the Congress of 1871 that's never been changed.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have any more room on my plate to do any more research. I have my hands quite full and I work every day. I spent the entire weekend, including Mother's Day. So
Yeah.
I don't have free time.
Now you just bring it up for in the future.
Yeah.
Once we get this established in paperwork, hey, they're not actually reading the law that Congress written, but an opinion of a 16-word missing USC. And
USC,
when you have time in the future, I just kind of bring it up because you're an attorney and I'm not.
Well, yeah, but the USC is not
you
an
can
opinion.
Probably make documents.
Yeah, the USC is not an opinion.
Cover that basis.
Yeah, but the USC is not an opinion. The United States Code is the set of laws, federal laws. That's what it is. United States Code is federal law. So I don't know, as far as whether things got changed or how, the procedures that you're talking about there. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but the United States Code is not opinion. It's not judge written. It's not administrative in nature. It's not like administrative code. That's not law. That's not constitutional. But United States Code is federal statute. It's just what they're calling the statutes.
Right. And again, back then, what they did is directly put the federal law into a category to make it easier for people to find particular laws. But when you have the particular law that directly got missing words, which means it's implied by law that Congress written, there's a contradictory right there. And you cannot have 16 words missing out of what Congress said during that.
Well, the thing is, it's up
statute or law.
It's up to Congress to really address that, though. You know what I mean? It's the Library of Congress that is in charge of housing and keeping track of the United States Code. So if Congress is saying that's what the wording of the statute is, again, I don't know, they can't just say something was changed. Something actually has to be changed. But again, it's not some outside body that changed it. It's Congress itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I may have to a little bit disagree with that, but I do understand what you're saying, that the statute or you see the titles.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to
Fine,
disagree
all,
with. It's the Library of Congress is not run by a different department. It's not run by the judicial branch. It's not, you know, it's the
Yeah.
Library of Congress, and that's the collector, if you will, of all the federal statutes. So it's not to say that there are not mistakes made or something was done wrong. I'm not saying that the words you're talking about shouldn't be in there or whatever. I'm just saying that it's within that branch itself. It'd be like if the state legislature, you know, if there was a law in the books and somehow by the time it made it to the, you know, collection of laws, it was no longer there. Then anyway, it's just there's a procedure that would need to be done to fix it, but it's not like we're ignoring what Congress is doing. It's that Congress is changing what Congress had done. So that's a different problem. That's what I'm getting at.
All righty.
So
and again, on my behalf, I appreciate you coming out and kind of teaching us a lot of particular matters. And thank you for your time and effort and your time and energy on helping the people.
Well, I appreciate that. All right. Well, I ignored
And,
somebody that called in twice
Godspeed
here.
with you.
What's that?
I said Godspeed with you.
Oh.
You need all the help you can get.
Yes. Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Well, thanks for calling. Have a great day.
You do as well. Bye.
Okay, guys. So I wanted to check on this. I could be taking this comment out of context. And the person who called twice from the 682 area code, give me just a second and call me right back. But I just want to address this comment. So again, I apologize to, I can't even read what the name is, something about the moon. But it's, I might be taking this out of context, but from what I'm seeing, Joe's question that I was answering earlier about the window tint, he ended up following up and said, well, window tint shouldn't be illegal in the first place. And then the comment after that was, it is illegal because of officer safety. And the thing is, officer safety, they can't be any more special than anybody else. We have equal protection of the law. So if the law is going to protect the safety of a police officer, it should be the same for protecting the safety of an average person, which means that if it's because of officer safety that windows can't be tinted, then police officer windows cannot be tinted, because I have the right to be safe. There's a lot of cops out there that are doing things that are totally illegal, unconstitutional, and that threaten our safety, our physical safety and other safety as well. I mean, my arrest video kind of shows you a little tidbit about that, but it's not just a race issue either. It's not like it's just a BLM thing or anything else. I think we can all agree that there's a lot of cops that go rogue, or they don't know they're going rogue, but they don't stop and learn the Constitution and learn what the laws are. So in that regard, anyway, just something to keep in mind. Nothing can be there that's only for officer safety. If it's an activity that everyone participates in, if it's about a scenario, you know, specific training or something like that, that's specific to police, and so you have a law that deals with that because of officer safety, okay, that makes sense. There's really not safety of others that's involved there. But when you're talking about driving on the road, cops aren't the only people that drive on the road. We all drive on the road. And so all of our safety is involved. And even if you don't drive on the road, you can be impacted by people that pull up to you when you're walking on the sidewalk and they're, you know, whatever. The windows are tinted and you can't see what they're doing and you don't know if it's safe or what, you know, whatever. So just keep that in mind. Officer safety is no more important than my safety, my daughter's safety, your safety. So, okay. Shoot. Should mere words ever result in the loss of liberty, especially when over feelings? That is a question we have on YouTube. It depends on what you mean. Oh, 682 is calling me, so give me a second here, guys. Hello. I can't tell what my computer's doing. Can you hear me okay? Hello, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, Kevin.
Okay, I don't know why it's having a delay. We do have a very significant storm in the area, so maybe that's kind of slowing things down. But anyway, where are you calling from and what is your name?
My name is Eric. I'm calling from the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas.
Oh, okay. And what is your question?
Well, I hope I asked a good question. I'm just trying to figure out. I was arrested about a month ago on my property when we called the police out to basically look after or take my brother to the mental hospital for, he requested us to call him. There was no threat at the moment. He had already made his threats of killing himself by going and laying on train tracks or whatever. Apologize for such details. But anyhow, it was at the time, and I was, I have kicked my brother out of my house because he's made threats to and inappropriate comments to other members of my family, my wife, or my kids. And so I'm like, all right, I can't help you anymore. But I allowed him to come over, talk with my dad. We called the police. Anyways, I asked a couple questions to the cops. He didn't like a response. He said I was interfering, which I'm talking to them just as loud as I'm talking to you, and I didn't do anything else. He said I was interfering, so I was like, okay, I need to walk away. So I walked away. He followed me, said he drew, used his hands as a gesture, said, cross this line, step on the concrete, I'm gonna arrest you. And I was like, well, anyways, I'm a 14th Air Force vet. I'm like, oh, and then know a little bit. I was like, what is this? I didn't do anything. I said, I'm going to go to the front door. That's exactly what I said. I said, I'm going to the front door. I don't know why I said that, because I should have just said I'm going inside. I wanted to go check on my kids who were home at the time. I told them to, not come outside or watch. I didn't want them to see if they maybe would have gone hands on with my brother or whatnot. But no threats were made or nothing. And they ended up arresting me and then tased me within 30 seconds. I mean, obviously I walked on the line, but because I had to go to my front door, I was going to get away from the situation. So I guess what rights were violated? I mean, they weren't there for me. I just don't know what question. Was I in wrong? Or were they, I don't know really what question would be good to ask, but I just want to know. In my heart, I feel like I did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I feel like I might be missing the situation. It'd be something if I saw the video and I saw it play out, I'd be able to tell you. But
well, sure, I understand that there might be some other circumstances, but I'm trying to be as forthright and honest with you as possible. I mean, what I had asked them was if they could have the ambulance truck move up, and he said no, he's in the middle of an emergency investigation. I was like, well, if it's such an emergency, why is he not in the back of the ambulance already, or in handcuffs? He can't hurt himself. And he didn't. He said, you're interfering now, and he got real snappy with me. And I said, interfering, and I just said, we'll use texting terms, GTFOH, in disbelief, and then started walking away, and he followed me and then started making all these threats to me. So
yeah, so that kind of goes along with the question that somebody asked me about the words, should mere words ever result in the loss of liberty? And if you're saying to somebody, get the hell out of here or whatever, and you're on your own property, and especially when you called for assistance and they're not assisting with the matter that you called for, but if you're on your own property, in general, they don't have a right to tell you where to be or to not go inside your own house. If there's probable cause for you to be detained or arrested at that moment, then they can detain or arrest you at that moment, but they can't stop you from, going to your backyard or, going inside your house or checking on your own kids. So, again, I could be missing something there, but based on what I'm picturing the scenario to be, no, I don't think that there's, it sounds like a scenario where you just had a cop who may have started off well-intentioned, but maybe was either too overly sensitive in their training to, potential dangers or red flags in dealing with, sensitive calls, or they're just too much, too full of themselves, and it was too much machismo, and they're like, oh, how dare you tell me that you're not going to follow what I'm telling you to. No, you're under my thumb. You're going to do exactly what I say. It seems like it's one of the two.
Yeah.
And
I think
so
the second part there is more accurate.
Yeah, and unfortunately that happens frequently. And that's, those very situations are where these officers need to be held personally accountable, because there is no other mechanism for holding them accountable. It's ridiculous. And they just the situations just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And this is the thing that it's like, I think the government in general, as one big entity that contains all the branches at all the levels and all whatever, if Democrats and Republicans, if conservatives and liberals alike are saying the cops are out of control, gee, if we agree on something, maybe there's some truth to it. But I don't know. I don't have an answer about how to address it, but it does sound like something that I would fight if I were you.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not taking any deals, but I mean, that's exactly true. I mean, I was able to somehow see the video, and I see him lying to his buddy saying, I was, out of control and just belligerent, and I stepped over the line onto the concrete saying, this is my property, I can do, which is not factual at all. And every time I watch the video, that guy that tased me, he muted his body camera 4 or 5 times when he was in groups of officers talking about the situation or talking to the sergeant, and so to me, that's just him telling lies about what exactly happened. And the police report was inaccurate too. So
yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, I just, I just don't know. I guess, what rights were violated, and how do I propose a question like that if it does for some reason get brushed over and I want to take it all the way to the Supreme? What is a proper kind of question to ask for the Supreme Court in a situation like that for them to see it?
Again, that's hard for me to try to do without having, really what the wording of the charges in front of me, without seeing the video, reading all the police statements, what witness statements or whatever. That's really hard, because even for me, even in my own case, this case that we've been battling with the city of Ormond Beach, or my one with the Allegan, somebody's just asking me how the Allegan case turned out. That took me, the case was finally dismissed, the Allegan case, for the guy that was asking just now how that turned out. But it took me almost 2 years. I think that was 21 months. And it finally got resolved. But I had multiple, different levels of getting up to the Court of Appeals, and was getting ready to appeal to the the Michigan Supreme Court. And in this case, I'm now on the second level of appeal, if you will, a petition for writ of certiorari to the 5th District Court of Appeals. And I'm refining, because I noticed how the circuit court judge, she just tore apart what I said and was, just being nasty. Things that didn't even need to be said, like that I was inartful in my presentation of what the legal issues were, or things like that. And I'm like, you know what? If it's art, who are you to judge? Because art is subjective. And second of all, It's not about art. It's about what is the damn law. Follow the frickin' law. And pay attention to what the law is. Care about what the law is. What's that?
So they within the 4 corners of your document real well.
Yeah, they're supposed to care about what is the point of what my document is saying. And I think there are so many laws that the city broke that perhaps she was just being too lazy about it and just didn't want to address them. So she lumped it all together and then talked about, well, in substantive due process cases, you have to do, and she like, skirted the issue. I'm like, how about point to right here? I pointed to all these laws that they violated. The city never denied that they violated these laws. And we're just going to ignore that because what? Because you thought it was inartful how I wrote it? So at any rate, as far as being able to help you word what a question would be, in getting all the way up through an appeal process and up to the Supreme Court, for example, it really depends. In fact, I was thinking of that myself just the other day, that God forbid that the Court of Appeals here denies my petition for writ of cert, or they grant the petition but don't deny, or don't grant me relief on the case. Either way, if I have to take this up to the state Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court, how would I narrow the issues down even further? How would I, construct the statement, the questions to be so point blank that it's just undeniable that they don't have the right to do that? It's hard because, in my case, they broke so many damn laws. I can't, how I narrow it down is just, it's hard. But in your case, it sounds, quite a bit simpler, but still, there's different ways of approaching each issue, so you have, and depending on what state you're in, your state constitution is going to have additional protections for you. And, for example, in the state of Florida, a lot of states, let me back up and say a lot of states with their state constitutions, if you have a constitutional right to bear arms in your state constitution, they often interpret what that means based on how the U.S. Supreme Court has interpreted the U.S. Constitution's aspect of the right to bear arms, or rights to privacy, or rights to this or that. But state constitutions can and often do have enhancements that literally are meant to be even a stronger protection than what the U.S. Constitution provides. For example, in the state of Florida, Article 1, Section 23, I can't remember what year it was, but it was, a few decades ago, I believe, that it was enacted. And when it was enacted, the people of the state of Florida, they were specifically trying to give a right to privacy against, protections against governmental intrusions that was much stronger than what they felt the U.S. Constitution provided. And so the cases have talked about that, and the congressional history, legislative history about how they chose the words for that amendment before it got on the ballot and all those kinds of things. It was very clear that it's meant to be an even stronger right to privacy. So my point being, take a look at whatever state you're in, think about what all the scenarios are, what your rights are. Anytime I have a case like that, I start with the Declaration of Rights of the state I'm in, or the state that would be applicable. And I read that, in fact, read the whole Constitution, but start with the Declaration of Rights and read all the words of all the sections in there, even ones that start off with their title. If you feel like it might not be relevant, read it anyway, because there might be something in there that you're like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that to be in there, but that's super helpful in my case. For example, in my own case, just recently when I was putting together my reply brief, I have raised Eighth Amendment issues about the excessive fines in our case as one of the many issues. I've raised that all along. But what I didn't realize, or what I guess I didn't think of really pulling apart the wording, is that in the Florida State Constitution, I don't remember which section, I want to say maybe it's Article 1, Section 16, there's a prohibition against excessive fines and cruel and unusual punishments, but then it continues on and it has additional wording that provides protections that I'm like, holy cow, this expressly says what they're doing is not okay. It violates the state constitution. And so I hammered on that in my reply brief. Same issue, but just from a different angle. So long story short is to tell you, really pay attention to your state constitution. because you might have additional protections in there, and depending on which one seems the easiest to win, that would be perhaps your strongest argument that you want to put forth as you go into higher courts on that issue or on that case.
Okay, thank you. So I guess one last question then would be, what do I kind of look at as far as holding them accountable? Previously, before them, a caller or a comment was made about qualified immunity, but how do I hold these guys personally accountable if my case is dismissed and all that stuff? Where should I look at starting for things like that?
It's hard because, for those who know about my Alec case, it's hard to hold. I'm just going to back up off the Allegan issue, but just in general, it's hard to hold government officials accountable for their wrongdoing, for their violation of rights, or even what appears to be intentional violation of rights. It can be very hard, and you have to find either you have to be willing to do the case yourself, or find an attorney who actually knows what they're doing, who has the passion and the commitment to see it through to hold them accountable. And the how, it just depends. Is there a state statute that's going to help with that? Is there, is it more of like a 42 USC section 1983 claim? Is it, what is it? Is it going to be a federal statute? Is it going to be a state statute? Is it, and what particular right are you focusing on the most that they violated? Or do you think it's better to say, they violated this right, and this right? You know what I mean? It just, there's a whole lot of legal strategy involved. And what I would do is still boil it back to the Declaration of Rights in your state constitution. Start there, because if you can find the strongest worded protections for the rights that they have violated within your state constitution, that'll help you narrow down perhaps the best causes of action to go after them then. So I wish I had an easy answer. Statute 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I mean, well, I appreciate it. I'm just new to a lot of this, and like I said, Air Force for 14 years, got out because of the stupid COVID thing. Hopefully I can say that now. But I just, I appreciate your time and don't want to take up too much of your time. I definitely got a lot more questions, but congratulations on getting your stuff dismissed. Thanks for everything you're doing for everybody here on YouTube. So, good luck with your stuff in Florida, because that just seems ridiculous. With them, the code enforcement is just third.
Well, two things real quick. One is, don't forget to call in on our next show. It's going to be the fourth Tuesday of the month. That's 7 p.m. So you said you have lots more questions. Keep calling in every time we're on, and I'll be glad to answer the questions. And as far as the code enforcement thing, I'll just let you guys know, aside from their most recent, or aside from the original orders that are never-ending fines that they think they can enforce, the new thing they're trying to do is have more additional, not replacement, but additional orders for fines for the same exact so-called violations. And this round, they're trying to get almost $32,000 out of us because we put pavers in and a fence, a privacy fence on our own property. So fun times. So anyway, thank you for your call. And call back the next show and continue asking questions. I'd love to be able to help you sort out these types of issues.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll start my reading.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and throw this link up there. And let me see here. What is it? I'm trying to find the YouTube chat. There we go. Okay. If there were any questions. Oh man, it's scrolled. It jumped a whole bunch. If you guys have questions that were in the chat that I missed today, I'm sorry. It brought me all the way back to the beginning, even though the scroll bar looked like it was at the top. And then it jumped me down, and I have no idea. I'm trying to scroll back up to, yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing any questions if I'm missing over them. Okay, there's a question here. Is filming police and the performance of their duties a constitutionally protected activity? In general, I would say yes. Now, there is some common sense that, if by filming, if you're like all up in the business, right, of what's going on, then that is, that's a problem. If you're creating more threat or more harm to the other people that are already involved in the situation, that's a problem. If you're standing by, if you're legit just standing by in a sidewalk filming, then yeah, it's a First Amendment protected activity. But also keep in mind, you have to balance that with a right to privacy, because depending on what the situation is, if you're putting videos up there that are somehow showing the private aspects of someone's life without their permission, then you have competing interests, because you have a right to free speech and the press and all that. But we as the people have the right to oversee and have a say in how the government's doing their job. But then you have this other competing aspect of someone's right to privacy. And did they bring their scenario out into, like the middle of whatever? So for example, if you have, these people that have decided to, whatever, family dispute, they're in the middle of a Walmart parking lot and they're like screaming and yelling and swearing at each other and whatever, right? Hooting and hollering in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. There's no expectation of privacy there. They've done that. So if you're simply recording, standing there recording and going, what? and seeing how the police are responding, yeah, okay. But if you end up being in a way where you're, either physically moving onto somebody's property, or you're zoomed in such a way that it's destroying a reasonable expectation of their privacy. I'm not talking about the expectation of privacy for police officers in the course of their duties. I'm talking about the reasonable expectation of privacy for the people that they are dealing with, whether they are a victim or the accused. You have to keep that in mind. So it depends on how you're filming, what you're doing. There's just different interests, right? We all have rights. So it's balancing all the rights to those involved. Hopefully that was enough to answer that question. Okay. I'm just trying to scroll through because there's a lot of chat back and forth, but I don't see any more questions. You know what does help? And I don't remember how we saw this. I think I was on somebody else's channel, and they asked people that are having questions specifically for me in that show to put in all capital letters question, and then non-capital letters, just regular, appropriate capitalization from there on out, what the question is. If you guys can do that from now on, that would be phenomenal, because then when I'm scrolling down, I see in all capital letters question if it's a question for me. If it's not a question for me, if you're just asking a question for somebody else, don't do that. But that would help me be able to pull out and see what the questions are for me versus just the conversation you guys are having back and forth. Because I'm looking, quite honestly, for question marks, and then I'm seeing, oh, that's not a question for me. So somebody said something about no expectation of privacy in public. I assume that's regarding what I was just talking about. And again, it depends on the scenario. If you're in your own vehicle, if you're in your own, it depends. It's use reasonable judgment in terms of figuring out, is there a reasonable expectation of privacy there? So anytime you're in public, just in general, anytime you are not on your own property, you can't say that you have no expectation of privacy. You know, when my husband and I are in our own car and we're talking about things, we have a reasonable expectation of privacy within the car. You know, if somebody like walks right up to us, whoo, that scared the crap out of me. I thought I saw a lightning flash, but then, whoo, that got me. Anyway, more amusement for you guys, I guess. You know, if somebody has their video, you know, their phone or whatever recording like right up at the windshield as we're parked in a parking lot, I mean, no, we have an expectation of privacy in our own vehicle. But if you have your windows down and you're like screaming and hollering or throwing stuff out of the car, you know, if I'm like, oh, well, my husband's a turd today, I'm going to throw his shoes out the window and I'm going to throw his wallet out the window and whatever, right? If somebody is recording that, then there's no reasonable expectation of privacy, because then you've moved the activity to the public arena in that regard. So hopefully that answers what you're talking about. Okay. And like I said, it's not about trespassing your eyes, but if you have a camera that is zoomed in so that it's not just what you can reasonably see from a normal distance, like 1 times zoom, then it's no longer about trespassing your eyes. It's about, you know, getting around the concept of trespassing. Or if you're using a drone or something like that, we need to not use drones, people, because you're going over private property all the time and it's a huge violation of rights. Anyway, okay. Did I ever research Terry, Ohio? And if so, what are my thoughts on its detriment to society? Given that I try to make the show an hour, I did not see that question was in there. And yes, in general, I have history with that case, if you will. But pulling cases off the top of my head before a show, I'm not going to have enough of all the specifics to speak intelligently about it. For example, I like to know whether it was a majority opinion or, you know, if it's a unanimous opinion. A lot of the recent opinions that have been coming out in the last couple months from the U.S. Supreme Court have been unanimous, which is crazy. There's a lot of private property cases and other freedom cases that are unanimous coming out of the United States Supreme Court right now. If you haven't been checking those out, check it out now. Anyway, a lot of other aspects of, you know, not so much what the concurrences say or the dissents say, but, you know, if it is a true majority opinion, what is the context? And so anyway, my point is, I don't want to pretend like I have all the answers right off the top of my head, because I don't. What I do have is definitely an inherent knowledge about the Constitution and the way that cases should go and the way that laws should go. And what I can tell you is that as far as cases go, cases are the detriment to society. Case law is a detriment to our country, because judges have been seen then as somehow being allowed to make laws. In fact, laws that are often, you know, viewed as higher in a priority than what the laws themselves are. And the ultimate people to provide authority about what the law is are the lawmakers, which would be the legislative branch. The judicial branch has no authority to make laws whatsoever, none whatsoever. The judicial branch is there to resolve disputes between parties, which, let's bring it back to the person that was asking about how things are going for Trump and what's the legal, you know, outcome of what's all these cases that are happening to him. If the court's job, any court's job, is to resolve disputes between parties, where is there a dispute? You have to have some sort of harm, a contract that was broken, physical harm that was caused, money that was taken, you know, something of that nature. And if there isn't a harm to a person, then there should be no case. There should be no jurisdiction. The courts have nothing to do, because they're not there to make precedent and make laws. They're there to follow the supreme law, which is the Constitution, and then any constitutionally enacted statutes after that. So at any rate, yeah, so I don't feel like I have enough off the top of my head to intelligently answer that without rereading the case at this point, because it's been years. Okay. So I think that is, I think now that I've answered the questions. Somebody I did see just now. What about the 25-foot law about, I assume that's regarding the, if you're within 25 feet of a cop in the state of Florida, you could be deemed as interfering or whatever. I didn't, in fact, I actually had the statutes printed off right here for me to read after our last show when somebody brought it up. We printed them off. They were right here. And I just realized they're no longer here. So I don't know who moved them, but without that reminder for me to read them, I haven't read the statutes myself, so I can't answer that. As far as having a 25-foot, distance around cops in general, no, that's stupid. That's my short answer. No, it's stupid. But as far as the reasoning and the logic and what might be appropriate, might not, we talked about that. I want to say it was in the last show, where we talked about what reasonable distances might be, and so that it's safe for you, it's safe for the cops, it's safe for the people that are involved, whether the people that are the accused or people that are victims or whatever the situation is. It's all about balancing the rights. And keep in mind, cops have no more rights than we do. So if you're talking about cop safety, that's no more important than our safety. Privacy, cops don't have privacy in the sense that just as a cop. You don't have a privacy as a government official. If you are a cop or some other government official, you have the right to privacy just the same as the rest of us in your own private affairs. But you don't have the right to privacy in doing the aspects of your job. So just things to keep in mind. It's all about balancing, what are the rights involved? And yeah, First Amendment auditors have a very important job to do, but we just have to make sure that in doing that job and knowing what your purpose is, it's not inadvertently actually trampling on the rights of privacy or some other rights of other people that are in the situation, which would usually not be the cops. It would be the other participants in the situation is who I'm talking about. So at any rate, I think okay. Rats to the Moon says, I about choked on my statement that cops have no more rights than the rest of us. Let me be clear. They think they have more rights than us. But that's not how our constitutional republic allows it to happen. So if our Constitution is being followed, and if constitutionally enacted statutes are being followed, and if we're just acknowledging natural law, God's law, cops have no more rights than we do. So I just want to be clear about that. Okay. So I think I answered all the questions. And at this point, I actually have to get back to preparing for the hearing on Monday. Anybody who's in the area and would like to come out and support us in the city of Ormond Beach, please do so. Like I said, I will share all the specifics tomorrow on our social media platforms in the Wednesday Way to Get Involved Challenge. And in the meantime, if you appreciate the work that I do, if you appreciate the issues that I try to bring to courts, the phone calls I answer, the questions I answer in the chats, all that, whatever, all of it, the documents I have on my website that are available for you to look at, which I will show you right here. RestoreFreedomKH.com/resources. That's going to be a great place for you to go to find all kinds of resources that I have for you for free. Thousands of hours of my work for free for you to be able to fight for your rights. or even the multitude of documents that are available for your perusal on the newest case. The restorefreedomkh.com/OB case link is available for you to check out those for the current case as it relates to the one that's having a hearing on Monday. Then if you appreciate any of this work, I'm going to ask you, even if you know me, even if we're friends, even if we hang out or, you know, whatever, you call me on my birthday or whatever, I'm asking you too, all of you, whether this is the first time here or somebody that you've known me for years, I'm going to ask you to go to restorefreedomkh.com/donate. Whether you only have $5 that you can donate, whether you have $500 that you can donate, if you have $5,000 that you can donate, I need help to keep going. I need literal financial help to keep the lights on, keep, being able to pay for the internet and the printer and printing out these cases and statutes and, having the streaming software paid for and all that. And trust me, it's not the top of the line. Nothing I have is the top of the line. Everything's old and ancient and cheap because that's all I do what I can with what I have. So I'm asking for you to help keep this work going. To keep the resources available to you and to others. So anyway, please go to restorefreedomkh.com/donate so that I can do that. And I'm not sure why it was such a light crowd in terms of the calls today. Usually we have several more people that call in, but it was a pleasure to have those of you that called in and to have those of you in the chat that were asking questions and whatnot. So, oh, I just noticed some of you heard the thunder as well. So if you guys heard it through this, then I know it was loud. So it legitimately scared the crap out of me. So not just because I'm jumpy. Anyway, make sure that you hit that like button before you leave as well. Share, subscribe, hit the notification button if you haven't done that already. Maybe turn it off and turn it back on. I noticed some people were saying they haven't got notifications for months that I'm going live, and actually switched back to this platform. It doesn't do as much as I'd like it to do. It's a lot less. There's more that I could do when I'm using OBS, but then if I use OBS, then the notifications are not a thing. So at any rate, now that we're back to this platform, it was solely because of the notification issue. So hopefully you guys get the notifications, and if you don't, turn them off, turn them back on, see if it helps. Who knows? It's like a computer. That's usually the number one thing they tell you to do when you call tech support. So anyway, somebody has asked, do I have a course? I assume that question is for me. And as far as you just mean like a course teaching about the Constitution or things like that, I would love to develop one. It was actually my intent to do that when I'm down here in 2021, but it has been a shit show. I'm just going to say that life has been a shit show. I've had an insane amount of people in my life pass away. I've taken on a child from one of those loved ones. And we've been battling first with Allegan and then with the city of Ormond Beach. And there was a time where those cases overlapped, and it's been ugly and awful in a lot of different ways. So I'm working every single day on doing these things, writing briefs, doing whatever, trying to get stuff up for you guys to check out. And I haven't been able to have the time to sit down and like put together like a, 6-week course or something like that. But if you have any thoughts or ideas on that or want to help in any way with that, let me know. I do appreciate Eric putting, I don't even know, like I get so little in donations. I don't even know what the terms are, even on something like this. So I'm going to show that on this. Is it showing it? It's not showing it. My buttons are not working. That's fabulous. Cool. Oh, and then it unshowed it. That's so awesome. And we're freezing. That's also. Anyway, so thank you for the donation, Eric. And just to let you guys know too, if donating here is definitely appreciated. Several of the ways that are available right through our website are quick, less fee things taken out. I mean, like I have stuff like Cash App, Venmo, and stuff like that where they don't take fees out. So any of those would be greatly appreciated. I can't even use words. So yes, I am shadow banned. I know that I've been shadow banned for years because in the first 3 weeks that I started doing lives on YouTube, I went from the minimum to go live, which was 1,000 people. And within 3 weeks, I had 10,000 people as subscribers on YouTube within 3 weeks. And then I stayed for 2 years right at 10,000. That's not statistically likely, but all of them have me shadow banned. It is what it is. That's why I need you guys to help. Epic Proportions Media Productions, you wouldn't donate to this hack. You need to go screw yourself and find some other buddy, you know, to troll, because guess what? I'm a real attorney and I do real freedom fighting. And unlike you, I don't have the time to waste to go on somebody else's live stream just to talk shit. If you think you're all that and you're worth something, go prove it. But leave here. Thanks. Eric, if you were asking which I prefer as far as donations, the ones that don't take any fees are the ones that I prefer. Cash App is the easiest. Venmo would be the next one, I think. And then from there, whatever, you know, PayPal hasn't been too bad to me. Square screwed me over after being with them for 15 years. So yeah, but Cash App itself is good. It was Square that was being turds. So anyway, there. Oh, well, Live Warrior, you beat me to it. I just decided to try to put him in some sort of a, whatever, get rid of him. Anyway, I thank you guys all. I really do. I appreciate it. And anytime, whether it's in the chat here or I don't even know what some of these comments are. Now, Lori, I don't know who you're talking to now. But anyway, for those of you who reach out by text or call or email or you know, comments on the live chat or on my posts, and you say encouraging things and you know, thank me and all of that is greatly appreciated. I mean, it's literally the only thing that keeps me doing what I'm doing at this point, because there's just so much negative and, you know, not a lot of return on this, definitely no financial return. All of you that, you know, help in that way as well are greatly appreciated. So at any rate, hopefully it's been a beneficial show to all of you. And I hope that you join us 2 weeks from today at 7 p.m. where we do our evening show, the 4th Tuesday of the month. And again, as long as technology cooperates, we'll be live on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, and we post it on the podcasting platforms afterwards. So thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Our work to restore freedom would not be possible without support from people just like you. From the various software and hardware needed to the legal research materials, every dollar you can donate helps. Make sure to like and share this video too. And remember to follow and subscribe and click that notification button. Together, we can restore freedom.